You're about to watch a free clip of Old School. If you like it, wait till you see the whole episode. All the episodes in their entirety are available for members. Become a member by going to tyt.com/join. Welcome to Old School. Cenk, Mark Thompson, everybody. Okay, Mark T. Thompson, right?
If you want it to be, it's actually S, but.
Oh, okay, so it's not T, it's S.
Yeah, but
so I could.
It's whatever you want. I mean, this is
Have
old
we
school.
gone over this? What S is for?
Well, it's S for a lot of things, but the actual name is Stewart.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Why is that? I wish I had a more interesting response, Cenk. It's quite, yes.
No, but Stewart sounds
regal, I find.
Yeah,
Stewart,
that's right.
Yes.
I mean, Stewart is the kind of guy who might say, "I do declare."
Yes. Oh, I see. Yeah.
Right. Or Stewart Smalley.
Oh, I
Stewart
see.
Little.
I'm more small-ish than little.
I feel. Either way. Stewart occasionally wears bow ties.
Do
you see what I'm saying?
Don't disagree with that. Yeah. I'm ST. I don't know if it matters, but I'm STEWART.
Way better, but still doesn't matter.
Fair enough.
It's definitely better, but it's not better enough to put you over the top.
I hear you. Yeah, well, that's about the best I can serve up. So.
But no, you know what? I mean, but you're getting real close there, because if it was your last name, there's nothing wrong with it at all, like Jon Stewart.
Sure.
Right? As a middle name, you're right on the bump. Right? You're right on the edge there. You hit like it's a push.
Wow, this is
right.
Really. Here's the worst part of this.
Name, no
this
chance.
is from a guy named Cenk Uygur. Okay, all right, and I am getting a blowtorch on my name, even though Cenk. Most of the time, people can't even get his name right.
Yeah. Cenk Uygur is giving you about your name, which is Stewart, like whatever, right? I mean, has anyone ever thrown a stone for out of a house made more of glass than me?
Exactly.
Like it's paper thin glass I'm throwing that stone from.
It's so odd. I mean, I've never gone after Cenk for his name, but that was one of the things that really pissed me off when you debated Ben Shapiro. He deliberately always called you Cenk. In that day. And
I didn't even know. So you know that here's a thing I never told anyone on air publicly, and privately maybe two people ever, right? Because who cares? But I couldn't hear a third of what he said. So I never heard him call me Cenk. Because on that podium, and that's why we did it differently with Tucker Carlson the next year, on that podium, on that stage, we were up on podiums, but really distant from one another, and it was super loud in the Terror Dome.
They play it that way, right?
Yeah.
With everybody's.
And no, that's fun. That's all good.
Sure.
And he brought a lot of his guys. Bless his heart. That's good tactics and stuff like that. And I would respond to the 2/3 that I heard. And I never rewatched it, but every once in a while, somebody, and I don't mean trolls, like, I don't know why, but it'll pop up on my radar like a 2-minute thing. And I'm like, oh my God, I never heard him say that.
Yeah.
Right? And when you said, I never heard him call me Cenk ever.
Yeah, he kept calling you Cenk, and I was giving you mad ass credit for not right, because I don't think I could have said, I think I would have gone, by the way, it's Cenk, and then I would have continued, you know what I mean? And then when he did it again, I go, by the way, it's Cenk, and then I would have gone, but you didn't, and you seemed like so cool ahead because of it, and as it turns out, you just didn't hear it.
No. So two things on that. One, you should now take away credit from me because I was not playing it cool. I just didn't hear him.
Right.
Okay. Secondly, you should take away way more credit from him, because we sat together for half an hour to an hour before the debate because they had to move the venue, and so we were in the green room together for a long time. And so my recollection is that he knows it's pronounced Cenk.
100% Ben Shapiro knows that your name is Cenk.
Yeah.
But in the
moment.
we
were so friendly. And that's the thing. Like, that's why Ben Shapiro versus Tucker Carlson's a fascinating difference.
Yeah, I heard.
And I got kind of vindicated a little bit on me insisting that there's a difference in today's news. But I'll explain.
Okay.
So Ben views it all as a sport. Right, and that's okay. It's just different, right? And so he's like, oh, we're in the green room, we're having a good conversation, we're talking about each other's kids, it's good. And then he gets out there and does his tactics. Cenk and this, and hey, taxes should be a little bit higher. So I guess they should be 100%. No, nobody said that. That doesn't make any sense, but your mindless guys are going, I got him. He got him, it should be 100%. That's what the guy said, right? So he's gonna go do the playbook. Tucker, on the other hand, we had a solid, I don't know, 15, 20-minute conversation backstage in that Terror Dome, but that was a much larger thing, and it doesn't matter. But he was a real person, and it's not sport. Like, for better or for worse, he means what he says. And
I mean, is that better? I hear what you're saying. He's taking, and I remember, I think you were talking to Ann about this the other day, that there was a back and forth, and you felt as though he was listening as opposed to just waiting to pummel you with the
100%. He was having that was the only real conversation I had at Politicon between Shapiro, Coulter, D'Souza, and Tucker Carlson. I mean, by a landslide. Like, so I pummeled D'Souza and Coulter, and I would argue Shapiro, but his guys would go, hey, so you say,
But the thing about Shapiro, you can't tell because he just keeps he's got his tactics, and it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. It's okay, God bless. I don't give a shit what you think about it, right? Sure.
Right.
But with Carlson, you were saying
what I care about is, are we having a real exchange of ideas, right? And as soon as I sensed with the other three that we were not, I'm like, okay, let's go to debate mode. And with Ann Coulter, it was awkward because I was supposed to be interviewing her, and it originally was not a debate, but it kind of devolved into one because she was so outlandish.
Yeah, she throws these grenades, and you have to respond.
Yeah, that's right. And so it like turned into an informal debate, and then D'Souza and Shapiro were real debates. But we set a conversation with Tucker Carlson, and I thought, no, it's going to be a debate, right? And but it didn't. And so today, how was I vindicated? He said, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has a good point about Amazon. Why are we giving $2 billion in subsidies to the richest man in the world? And I'm like, that's what he talked about backstage, and he talked about it on stage a little bit. What I was most surprised by backstage about Tucker Carlson's real opinions is how anti-corporate he was. He said it a little bit on stage, how he's more worried about big business than he is about big government. And I was like, whoa, I did not see that coming.
Wow.
All right?
Yeah.
And we had a lot of agreement on the big business issue, right? By the way, we also have some agreement on big government. It just means which part, right?
Well, and now the two have sloshed together so seamlessly.
That's right. Is there a word for that when big government and big business get together? And then there's a little bit of militarism thrown in, and you follow a cult leader. There should be a word for that. Okay. Anyway, we make up words on old school. Maybe we could. How about it's like this kind of fast and furious, but it's got to have an ism in it.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe like we made up 4 or 5 words on old school, right? Fascism.
Oh, that's clever. Yeah, that's catchy.
Yeah.
All right, fascism. Yeah,
but
I like
now,
it.
so you're not surprised that I think big government, big business working together is fascism, because that's the definition. Okay, and the other things that I mentioned. But it is curious that Tucker Carlson is concerned about that. And then I'll tell you something else. I read somewhere just 2 days ago that he is the most, in a poll, conservatives find him to be the most trustworthy, which then I will go further in not letting you speak. By the way, I have 8 topics. Welcome to Old School.
Yeah.
8 topics that, while I've been talking, that I came up with. Anyway, so is that
he's the most trusted.
Yeah, he's the most trusted, and the thing that mainstream media doesn't tell you about is people hate big business. It polls really, really poorly.
Of course.
Right. But you never hear it on TV because TV is big business. Right?
Ding, 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 ding.
That's right. So when Tucker Carlson started hitting big business from the right side, people were really receptive to it. Like when Trump started hitting free trade from the right side, people were receptive to it, because those are all like, look, there's logic in free trade, but there's also a great clamoring, legitimately so, for fair trade both from the right and the left, right?
Yep.
But the elites don't want that, right? They want big corporations to write the trade pacts, right? And they want big corporations to be viewed positively. So you never hear a damn thing about that on mainstream media.
That's right. They want to be able to manipulate trade deals the way they always have.
Yeah. And so when we say from the left, those free trade deals are not so free and they're definitely not fair, people go, yeah, right? And when Tucker says it from the right, they go, yeah. Or Trump says it from the right, they say, yeah. And same thing on big business. Big business is crushing us. It's the public corporations are, right at the top of the biggest problem in America. It's not that you shouldn't have corporations. Look, I'm not a right winger. I do nuance, right? And it's not a black and white world. You need companies, you need limited liability, you need corporations. But public corporations have a great number of problems. One is that their owners don't run them. The executives run them, okay? And the executives do not own the company. They have a totally different incentive system. Number two is we have told public corporations, we have written into the law and hence their coding that they must maximize profit at all costs.
Right, that's their job.
That's their job. It's a computer program that we programmed to crush us all to maximize profit.
That's right.
And so steamroll everything in your path.
Right, so if you have to slash budgets and slash staff and lower hourly wage, whatever, we only care about that stock price, we only care about the health of the corporation.
You pollute the environment, who cares? That's not in your programming.
Right.
And some on the left make the mistake of thinking that corporations are immoral. They're not, they're robots, they're computer programs. They're amoral, they have no morality at all, which is arguably worse, right? Like, morality is not coded into their system, so they don't care about it at all.
That's why, as someone who's kind of watching these environmental issues get thrown out the back door, I know we're all watching it, but I'm just saying that it's particularly galling because there's sort of a sense of, good corporate citizens will watch over the environment, they'll watch over water quality, they'll watch over toxicity that's dumped into the air, into the land, and of course, as Cenk says, there's no charge for that. There's no reason for that. They won't.
So first of all, there is no such thing as a good corporate citizen. There's also no such thing as a corporate citizen. Those things are misnomers. They don't exist. And number two, if you do the quote unquote right thing or the moral thing and it costs the company money, you will be fired. That's a fact, okay? You have a fiduciary responsibility to maximize shareholder profits. And if you are not doing it because you're soft on the environment, you're soft on your labor and the people working for you, you will be removed from that position. And if, like the example that I always harken back to with poor details, sorry, but it was a giant insurance company in California. They raised rates, this is during the Obama years, 39%, okay? In 1 year, and a lot of people had to go off of insurance because they couldn't afford it anymore. And I think there's a high-level executive, but not the CEO, complained and said, "This is not right." Okay, number one, people can't afford this. They're gonna go bankrupt. Number two, the ones that now literally can't afford it and don't have it, they get sick. They're gonna die. This is wrong. They're like, "Oh, that's a good point. You're fired." They immediately fired her. They're like, "What do you mean? We're maximizing profit. Get the out of here, right? With your 39% is too high. Who gives a shit, right? At 39%, we maximize profit. Not at 40%, because then too many people leave. Not at 38%, because we haven't maximized. 39% is the right number, and if you complain, there's the fucking door, okay? And so she was replaced by someone who thought 39% is perfect, right? And that's how it works, because it's a robot, it's a machine. The humans are the cogs in the machine, but the machine is the public corporation. By the way, private companies are a little different.
Coming out against big companies is great political fodder, right? It's great, that is to say, Trump himself came out against these big companies. And of course, once he gets in, he is the, first of all, he has no idea about policy, and he's handed the keys to everybody who is part of a big company, right? Or has strong connections to them. But you see how both Democrats and Republicans make political hay going up against the corporate behemoths, but then they just create bigger corporate behemoths. That's my biggest concern in this country, is that now the corporations have become so big, so dominant. I mean, you could have maybe made this statement 10 years ago as well, but when you look at the media companies controlled, I mean, particularly the media companies, because I consider them as being in control of the information that so many Americans get, and they're a handful.
Yeah. No, there's so many different problems with it. Look,
yeah.
So doctors, for example, they think that their enemies are lawyers, right? Oh, my insurance is so high because the goddamn lawyers and stuff. And I get it, I understand, and there are wonderful lawyers out there who are looking to protect you. There are unethical lawyers out there, okay? And there's a wild combination. No, but that's not what's actually your number one problem. Your number one problem is you're getting squeezed by every single corporation you deal with. So whether it's the drug companies, the hospitals, et cetera, they all have to maximize profit, and you're in their way. You think they care that you're a doctor? No, they view you as any other laborer, right? And if the minimum wage should be as low as humanly possible, so I maximize profit. But the doctor's wages should also be as low as possible, so I can take the extra dollar rather than the doctor. Right. The health insurance takes the extra dollar. The drug companies take the extra dollar. They all want the extra dollar. Instead of having it go to you, they need to have it go to them, okay? The other problem with public corporations is that it's all short term. And you got to get your quarterly returns, and you got to get your earnings up every quarter. So it is directly incentivized for short-term thinking and not long-term thinking. The planet's going to melt down in now not 100 years, but now we're down to 12 years, right? Mm. And it's melting down right in front of our eyes right now. It's not that it starts 12 years from now. It's that it becomes apocalyptic in that period of time. But look around, especially here in California, it's already apocalyptic. And yeah, but what are my quarterly earnings? And all the executives, all their bonuses are tied to quarterly earnings.
Sure.
They're not tied to the health of the planet 12 years from now.
No, they're not incentivized in the least to make any responsible decisions about the planet. That's why you need real leadership. That's why you need real government. I mean, people say, well, smaller government. Okay, smaller government in certain areas, but certain things like protecting the health of everyone who lives in America, that should fall to the American government. There's also, frankly, a responsibility to the planet, to the world,
Yeah.
and
so in parts where Tucker Carlson complains about big government, he is right in that it has been co-opted by big business. So now it's corruption that serves the interests of big business. That is absolutely true, and probably the number one thing we talk about on air, right? I would then add that big government's a problem with giant military that wants to start more and more wars. So I got maybe even in some ways more issues with big government than he does. The part where I don't have an issue with big government, where I disagree with the right wing, is government is supposed to be the one thing that represents us. In a democracy, if it's actually functioning, it is our representatives. And what do they represent us against? So foreign invaders, right? You got to protect us from people that might come and take our homes, et cetera, right? But also against other entities like corporations who are not aimed to represent us, they're aimed to maximize profit. And we need people who represent us to protect us, because the corporations are not gonna protect your streams. The government protects your streams because the government represents you and your kids. And it's gotta make sure that you're not getting poison in your water. So if that is big government, that's great, right? But the reason the right wing tells you that's bad is because they've been bought by big business that wants to pollute the stream to make an extra buck. So it tells you, oh, big government trying to protect your kids. Don't let them do that. Do deregulation so we can run amok. Yes.
I love that cumbersome regulation, business regulation. I mean, environmental regulations, these cumbersome environment. I always call them protections. They're not regulations, right?
That's exactly right. And there's another word for them, laws. regulations are laws. So do you believe in the rule of law or not? Now, not every law is great. Everybody knows that. And so again, we do nuance. So the laws against marijuana, disastrous. Okay, so I'm against big government enforcing that wrong law. So this is the example I often use, and there's some chances apocryphal. Like I don't remember exactly, but I remember we were Republicans growing up because my dad thought they inspected the elevators too many times, and in my memory, they came by 6 times a year to inspect elevators in his building. He's a small business owner, owns a building in Eatontown, New Jersey, right back then. And he's like, look, I want them to inspect the elevator because in Turkey, sometimes they don't inspect and elevator falls. Right? Oh. He's like, but can we do it twice a year instead of 6? It costs me money, right? So great, that makes sense. Just because there's a regulation doesn't mean it's right by definition. What if they inspected it 72 times a year? Oh, for God's sake, right? Right? So of course you need balance, but the right wing doesn't do balance. No, deregulation is right by definition. I mean, come on, look, if you got taught to believe that and no one ever challenged it and you never heard a challenge of it, then it's totally unfair to say that you're not bright, okay? But if you heard the other side and you still think, oh yeah, deregulation under all circumstances, then you're not that bright, right? Of course it depends. Of course it depends. Okay, Corporation X will make money by poisoning the coffee you're drinking. We have a regulation to stop them from doing that. No, me think deregulation bad. Poison coffee. I die tomorrow. I feel great about deregulation. Right? Like what? That doesn't make any sense.
No, and truly, the history of corporations and companies in America and worldwide. I mean, Bhopal, India is probably one of the highest profile examples. Those histories replete with examples of doing just that, literally poisoning people with an utter disregard and knowledge of the fact that they're poisoning people. I don't mean to be too heavy, but it speaks to your point, which is certainly you need to regulate those toxins and poisons. Those regulations have to be there.
So, okay, last thing on this, and by the way, I forgot to tell you guys, Old School, sponsored by ShopTYT.com, okay? The Young Turks right here, ShopTYT.com, okay?
I still haven't gotten my Stable Genius t-shirt. Is that still up?
Yeah,
up there? Okay, I need
very
that.
Stable Genius, yeah. And you can get that hat too, I think.
Yes.
I love that hat on you, Mike. So I was walking around in Washington and I was on the phone with, I think it was Allison Hartson. No, Kyle Kalinske, okay? And I see some guy walking by in a TYT hat. I'm like, and it's an old ragged one. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. There's a guy in a TYT hat. And I'm like, oh, it's Adam Green. So Adam Green is a founder and president of Progressive Change Campaign Committee.
That's great.
He's been on Old School for the Old School aficionados, and he was on the phone with Brent Welder, who was a progressive who ran in Kansas.
Of course.
So then we all got on a big conference.
So that's great. That's great. That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I've had just on this digression. I think I may have told you about one of them. I've had people be eating dinner, let's say it because that's exactly what it was. I was eating dinner, and the waiter will lean over to me and say, I think what you guys do on TYT is really great. I watch you every day. It's like, really? And then I had the chef come out from behind his station, like, he was one of those carving station things, and he came all the way across the restaurant and goes, wow, I just want to tell you, really appreciate the work at TYT and all this. It was just, you realize, when we sit here and we talk about stuff, we really worked so earnestly to try to bring across information, and so many people work here at TYT to do that. And it's just cool that when you feel that impact is being made, it's a really cool thing.
Yeah, we're still in the first half hour, right? So you guys, some of you are watching this on YouTube. It's recorded on Wednesday nights. Members can watch it live, and they do watch it live. And then they could also watch it whenever they want. TYT.com/join to become a member and support the show. But we're also doing a contest. So if you want to do it through TYT.com/jank.
Oh,
right.
There you go.
I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying. Although good luck spelling it. It's not like it's an easy name like Stewart.
Spell like Ben Shapiro spells it. Cenk.
That's right.
C-E-N-K.
C-E-N-K. Okay, so you can get the whole old school, so you can get the post games, you get the members, the Young Turks, and all of our 18 shows. Okay, and I was gonna connect that to something you said, but I forgot, so I'm moving on.
Okay.
Okay, and then I'm gonna come back to a bunch of other things, including budgets, but two other quick things. I think I saw a woman walk by in a TYT hat today, randomly, right? Because you have the hat on, I told the Adam Green story, and I was like, oh my God, earlier today. But I'm not positive she was in a TYT hat, but I was looking at my phone, I was like, is that a TYT hat? And she'd already gone by. And then she was speaking Turkish.
No.
And I was like, maybe it was a TYT hat. Maybe it was. Okay, or was it Adam Green in disguise? Okay, and here's Adam Green, everybody. No, I'm kidding, okay. So, okay.
But isn't it cool, you know, years ago, when we used to do TYT out of that burned out building in the mid-Wilshire district of Los Angeles, I mean, when it was just an effort, I mean, you were really there every day, and maybe you could see daylight, or maybe you just had the daylight dream. You definitely had the dream. And when you stayed at it, I mean, it seemed not inconceivable, because obviously it was a route that you were hoping, but wow, to have it really have caught on to the point that you're like saying, hey, that person's got a TYT hat, and that person's got a TYT hat, and the waiter came over and he watches TYT, and the chef came over and he watches TYT, and you know, makes to be that impactful is a really cool thing.
Thank you, I appreciate that. But I'm giving a speech, and this is so random, to Turkish businesswomen tomorrow night, okay? And I only wrote out one thing. I never write out speeches. I just, you know, I'd write bullet points or whatever sometimes. But the first line is because they asked me to talk about the secrets to success. And my first line is, I'm supposed to talk about secrets of success, but I'll tell you when I get there, right? Because I don't feel successful, right? Like, and that's gonna actually relate to one of the topics I wrote down. Have you ever done a budget? Like a budget for an organization, not your personal family budget or whatever, although I don't ever do that either, but like, do people do that? They're like, okay, for food? Yeah, people do, right? Yeah, some people do.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, I do that. I mean, I have done that.
Yeah, I do it in my head. I'm like, I know I can't afford that, etc. But
I have never done a budget for an organization, no. In fact, on TV shows I was involved in, it was always somebody else who did the budget.
So you have never filled out a line for accounts receivables?
No.
Okay, count yourself lucky. Like, you don't know how lucky you are. So there's only one thing I dislike more than doing budgets, and that's contracts.
Oh yeah.
Oh, contracts. Oh, with the legalese, it's a different language. And I went to law school. I'm a lawyer, and I'm like, oh, I hate this. It's so laborious. Can't stand it. Right? Budgets. Like, I've gotten to the point, I run the company, so luckily other people do the budgets, and then I look at them, and that's not so bad. Like, I'm like, okay.
But don't other people do the contracts and you look at them?
Yeah, but even then it's really laborious. Because contracts, nothing to with. Like, you gotta make sure that you got it right, you know, and you can't say later, well, I didn't read that page.
Right, that's true, that's true.
Like, I thought that page was just like standard stuff, I didn't read it. I mean, there's a lot of mumbo jumbo. Who reads that crap?
You know, right? I remember early on in my career, I ended up with a contract that stipulated that they have it was a TV station. They had a 90-day option on my services. In other words, they're really only hiring you. It was a 3-year contract, but they're only hiring me 90 days at a time, in effect. In other words, every 90 days, they can dump you. Right? And I really I was so desperate for work and hoping to get ahead and everything that I just, you know, signed it and was excited. And I think I did it through the agent, but he said, look, it is what it is. We can't do anything. I mean, I had no power, right? But then I got an offer from a bigger market, and I called the agent. I go, I'm screwed here. I got this offer from this other, and he said, they have the option every 90 days, and you have the option every 90 days. And so I'm thinking, You're kidding. They left that in, that I have the option also? And he said, yeah, and nobody caught it. So we're going to go through it. And I went right through that 90-day window to a bigger market. And so you're right, though, that, you know, if somebody had said, well, we, the slave owners, we have the 90-day option. You know, the plantation owners have it. That would have been, I would have had to sign that, right? Those contracts exist right now. Many people are working on those kinds of deals. But in this case, it was a mutual type thing. So you made me think when you said, I got to look at everything, otherwise.
Yeah, and apparently that general manager didn't look at it close enough. And he might have been in trouble because they're like, "What? You let that guy that guy's a legend. You let them slip through your fingers." Okay.
Well, at that time, I was not a legend. I don't know if I was ever a legend. Thank you, but back then I wasn't a legend. It was still very early in my career.
So he got his ass chewed out. They're like, "That is Mark S. Thompson."
I don't think there was any ass chewing going on. I think it was pretty.
Can we agree that that is a very unfortunate phrase?
Yes, I'm sorry about that. Cheers.
Yeah, no, I mentioned it originally, but like, I got my ass chewed out. I don't know. Well, actually, maybe it was fun. I don't know. It depends on what you're into, right?
15 years ago, that was more acceptable. Today, I feel like somehow it's entered the vernacular in a different way.
Yeah. It goes to one of my favorite stories of this, and I'm now told this way too many times. But like the Ben Shapiro fans who see me in the streets and they go, two of them do this. Ben Shapiro ate you. I'm like, nope, no, that's not what you think it means. It's supposed to be ate your lunch. Or,
you gotta continue. You gotta finish. You gotta round it off. Gotta round it off. A bad heckle is really about as low as you know. Right? If you're gonna heckle, you gotta have something really loaded.
Yeah, but you know what? The only way it could get worse if they're like, "Oh yeah, Ben Shapiro chewed your ass out."
Yeah, that feels like that's one. That's such an easy one to come back on. Like, and your mama was videoing and dude, whatever. Like those, you can easily turn that into, you get into it with them. But do you get heckled much?
I do from time to time, yeah.
Because I always talk about the great thing about Cenk is that he can turn down the flame. Like, you know how high profile and passionate and outspoken he is, right? And so you see all this blowtorch of crap coming back at him, but you don't really, I see you engage with some, like on substantive stuff, but you don't really, it doesn't get to, I've talked to you about this before because it just astounds me. I'm really like wounded when I get, I feel like, no, you misunderstand. I'm trying to make a point here about blah, 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 blah. You don't really.
Yeah, oh, sorry. That was a troll.
Yeah, you do. It doesn't bother you. Doesn't bother you.
No, because Mark, that goes to the original conversation. Oh no, YouTube audience, we're gonna have to let you go because I was gonna make another Shapiro Tucker Carlson comparison. Oh no, what's
Are they already gone? The YouTube audience?
No, so they're about to go. Hold on. We're gonna wave bye-bye to them in a second. So the YouTube audience gets half an hour. The podcast audience gets an hour. Only members get the whole 90 minutes. TYT.com/Cenk. Bye-bye. The TYT Plus app is now available on iOS and Android. Download to get more TYT content at TYT.com/app.